Welcome back. I'm Michael. You are listening to The Michael Dresser Show. James Evans Bomar with us, known as Sevan. He's a radio personality, internet TV show host, author, and a motivational speaker. He's best known as Sevan is one of the most diverse and enigmatic speakers of our time. He raises the bar for what is generally discussed as mental, spiritual, and physical advisors, hosting the popular internet television program known as Astral Quest Bomar. It's rapidly gaining explosive recognition with his unique style. And let us say, Sevan, welcome to the show.
Good day, Michael. It's definitely excellent to be on the show today. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm fighting one of those little flu epidemics that are running around, but I'm getting the best of it.
All right. I'm sorry to hear that, but definitely I'm hoping to infuse you with some energy today so you can go ahead and knock it right out.
I'm ready. I'm ready to get it. Now, when we deal with problems today, let's define something, and let's define the word problem. Usually, people get stuck in a place. They say, "I've got this problem. I can't get forward. I can't move through my physical realm to my spiritual realm." And there's always that stuckness somewhere. In all of your work, if you got to define what a problem is, and what is this thing that causes us not to be everything we can be?
Well, I would definitely say that when looking at, I always would notice personally that the solution was actually available before the problem, and that the problem comes after the solution. And I know that's sometimes foreign to what most people think, but in my studies, I've known that to be true. And so I would definitely say that there would be a plethora of things that a person's doing just in this standard daily life that could be causing them to be stagnant in their pursuit of what I would say is the meaning to life. However, it's still based on the principle of the frequency of the body being slowed down or put into a dense state to where the person has no current or no currency, and thus in this world they have a hard time what I would say, molding the elements that are around them.
Now, one of the definitions, and I think the definition of a problem, and over all my years on this planet, what I come to the conclusion of, that a problem is an indicator that a lesson is about to be learned. And unless you're ready to look through the problem and symbolically see what it is, it's going to come back to you over and over and over again till you get it. And once you get it, you have the ability to move through. And then what happens next, you get another problem and you get another life lesson.
Right. I mean, in that being in itself ad infinitum in certain tenses. And that's why also it's urged me to, because I can relate that almost to a vortex in a certain tense, because problems do take energy. So every time encountering a problem, if you do actually get to one that's insurmountable, then there's a period that occurs where the person loses a great deal of energy. So it's been in our best interest, and especially looking at more of an innovative approach at handling the entire thing, to work with the more physical state of ourselves first, which is, of course, activating the physical vehicle, then to be up to the task of beginning to think and beginning to utilize the power that has been given to us within the language and within our ideas.
All communication is based on a language, and language could be physical, emotional, intellectual. But from what I'm looking at here is you're saying that there is a code to the English language.
That is correct. That what was discovered is that there's not only a code to the English language, but as you go back into history, you'll find that many of the languages themselves were actually codes or programs, which were tools that were utilized by the higher states of intellect to, in a sense, control, or even in attempts to operate the state of mind of the human being. So when we look into the origins of sound then, which is basically language, we discover something entirely different to what it's actually used for.
Okay, now by the way, when we talk about sound, the sound is vibrations, etc., and then the human body, we're designed in a particular way to receive or reject whatever comes in. And unless we know what that design is, we can go through life and have a tremendous amount of problems and never really get a handle on it.
That's definitely correct. And, our body is more of that design in a sense that it becomes our map even to the cosmos, that when we understand certain rudimentary laws like solfeggio, the frequencies that the organs in your body play off, that's why they're called organs, because they make specific sounds. But in that, we get to the core tones and the vibrations that equal health or also equal disharmony. So, yes, sound plays a major key in our progress.
Okay, vibration, very interesting. We all have a different kind of vibration. I won't say a different kind. We all move to a different rhythm, quote unquote, right, which would be a vibration. And I guess the best example of that would be to get out on a dance floor. And then there's those times where you just feel the music, and you're not listening to it, you become that music while you're dancing or singing something. Isn't that when you truly connect with the vibration?
For sure. I mean, it's our own inherent vibration or biorhythm. We do share it collectively somewhat, but obviously each person does have their own vibratory frequency that they give off, because each person consists of different elements and of different temperaments is the key word that is somewhat gauging whether we're watery or fiery, etc. And I think that that's kind of summed up in the zodiac. But more of a serious look into astronomy and how that all connects just shows us that even the celestial bodies are emanating a frequency that is also resonant inside of us, and that in a sense becomes somewhat of a governor for what we can and cannot do if we don't understand the timing and the whole machination that we're actually in, called the physical body.
You know, we talk frequency, and we've heard time and again how there's differences between men and women. Is that difference the frequency?
For sure. I mean, only because there would be definitely a powerful question, because then you get into more of the dynamics of what a positive and negative create together. A lot of times, because of our language barrier, when we say neg or negative, it actually means to us something that we want to get away from us. But from an amplifier standpoint, negative amplifies the power. So the man and the woman are made to be in conjunction with one another, because their spheres are harmonic when they oscillate with one another, but very dualistic when they come into disagreement with one another.
But we also have, male or female, there are those parts that are both masculine and feminine.
That's
and
correct.
It's the ability to be able to recognize it, to be able to work with it, because it's there, and if you don't know it's there, number one, you're not going to get the advantage of it. But also, it's the ability to work with it. I think that in and of itself is critical.
Oh, yeah, definitely, for sure. I mean, you're hitting on some deep points like a doctor. But first, it has to be discovered within, actually, before it's ever discovered without. And we do exhibit a left and right hemisphere, which have been known as the masculine and feminine sides of our body. And I believe this new era that we're actually in now is allowing us to begin to bridge those right and left hemispheres into more of the corpus callosum, and becoming more of a balanced individual inside, and then that, of course, affecting our environment around us and attracting those kind of individuals to us.
Yeah, but let's look at what you've just said. And I think it's critical because look at the way this country, the United States of America, is right now, the confusion, the separation, the not knowing where the direction is. That's everything that you and I have just talked about in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. So it's not only has to do with the human being, it has to do with everything that exists on this planet and everywhere else within that frequency. And I really believe that when something new is going to come, the old has to fall apart.
For sure. I mean, like a wave, and that's really what this more accurate level of information and application to even spiritual knowledge is coming now. Is like a wave, and we all send off waves and ripples. I call it. This basically, even if I get upset at someone and then I call another individual, I'm going to spread that to them, even if I don't intend to, and then it's going to then in turn keep going, and it weakens as it goes. Sometimes, of course, it can intensify depending upon who it's going into. But this is the ripples that we're sending across with our activity. So it works from a positive and negative level, if you want to use that term. So we have the capability of sending off a very strong wave of awakening into this reality, which I believe is going on now, for sure. And then that becoming a wave that people start riding.
Yeah, now, by the way, is death in and of itself a wave? Is death an awakening?
That's an interesting question, because it's based on the individual. When a person dies with the frequency that they're on, they can actually go into a deeper set of sleep. Walking around and doing things does not indicate that we're awake, because we do that in the dream. So what's happening now is that we go through stages of awakening based on how many senses that we have access to. And so I would say death is more of a transition phase, a losing of a temporary husk, and then putting us into a very realistic field where our frequency determines our status.
And by the way, death, we're all frightened of death because death for most people is the unknown. The unknown is what scares us. If we know it, we're confident, it's not scary. I remember, 15, 16 years ago, I had a health problem. It was pretty bad. And I remember I had to get an operation. I was sitting in the garage, and I was on one of those stationary bicycles, and I'm sweating away, and I figured I've got to get in the greatest condition I can be in to get this operation. And then it hit me. I had one of those cathartic moments. I made it okay to die. I didn't say I wanted to die, but I made it okay to die. I stopped fighting. And when I did that, I really believe at that point the stress went and the immune system kicked in and did what it was supposed to do.
For sure. I mean, and that's a beautiful story. And then I think I even personally went even beyond after conquering death into another state of fear, just to know that it doesn't end. It's just more of a state of mind, the fear. But it was basically confinement being worse than death, because obviously there can get to a point where you want to go somewhere, but you just cannot. And many people have faced those situations in their life. And I think that's where our conversation began. And so it's good to offer methods, which is actually what our future research has led us into, which is offering methods of how to get an individual out of the confinement, even of their body. And also in being able to explore the realm that is beyond that, so that they can come to a more massive understanding of things that they may have blockages in knowing about, but the desire to perceive. And so, yes, I would definitely say that we're going beyond now.
Well, and we've heard from time and again that there's, a collective consciousness, that some way, shape, or form that we are all connected. And I believe that that's true. But how is that connection made? That internal connection with that universe out there, that internal connection with the person sitting across the desk, the person that you run into on the street. It's just everybody seems to be connected, and at the same time, we battle for that separation, which is contrary to what I forgot. I lost the word I wanted to use, but it's contrary to just living and being and staying balanced.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this is very simple, because it's the understanding of the difference between a spirit and a soul. A soul, there's no such thing as souls. There's no plural. A soul is everything that you see, that vast vacuum in space, that blackness, etc. That is the soul, and everything is created from that. It is pure energy, or what's called prima materia. But then everything else that is created from that, aka the spirits, or also known as the spirits. You got tree spirits, human spirits, animal spirits, etc. These are individualized souls, meaning that they still have obtained that same thing that makes us, which is the individualization, but they're still in the etheric, or just on a different frequency that's slightly out of our visual spectrum. So it's important for all of us to realize that what we're seeing with this connectivity is because we all come from the same biorhythm called the soul. But once we separate from that, then you get inequality, because just like one person may be born with no arm, and in a physical reality, no arm is a disadvantage. So there's a realism in the adept or the adult that has to approach this information and say, okay, we realize what happens after the spiritual emanation, and then also our duty to create the balance. That's why it's called you're a gardener, meaning this is something that you have to do constantly. A gardener just doesn't go out one time a day. And so this is the same thing we have to do with our bodies. We have to consistently be gardening, trimming ourselves, etc. And then that's going to keep us in the proper shape that we need to play the right tones in this reality to cause balance, which will get us to where we need. And then that's going to be something that carries us even beyond this planetary system and this particular incarnation.
And then we have something called astrology. And I would venture to guess, if somebody doesn't believe in astrology, wait till Mercury goes into retrograde and talk to your computer.
Right, for sure. I mean, extreme disconnection, and that's really symbolic of the umbilical cord being cut from the child. But it's basically where it's even a disconnection from common sense, because if there's things that are growing out of this planet, it indicates that the planet is alive. Planet has a frequency. So it goes on and on and on. And that's what I was explaining about the language. If you just go anywhere, and this is one thing that I just want to deliver to the audience, if you pursue anything with passion, you eventually discover the matrix. And that's why I say some people discover the matrix by entirely different means. It's not always an adept or a sage or etc. Some people pursue their physical career, athletic career, any other career, but with the potential in themselves to achieve their highest. And in that, they recognize a universal blueprint, that there's something about them that is the same as everything around them. And then they start paying attention more to the synchronicities, realizing that for a great soul, everything is great. Everything that you're involved in has a meaning, and then starts reading the fabric of this matrix, like reading the actual code that is coming at you from your street names, your mother's name, your date of birth, etc., but actually with a system that allows you to get real-time data back, not just superstition. And also pairing that with the greatest knowledge that's available today, which would be the physics, which would be metaphysics even, and then finding some common denominators so that way we have a real gauge or a real map to sell what clearly is a sea or ocean, and we're in a sense just on a ship gliding through it.
Wouldn't that be interesting if you could get all of the leaders in the world today and they could create this commonality of definition and work out from there, and all of the things that people suffer for right now would disappear?
For sure, and that's what's about to happen because we're using different tools. We're learning now not to use rudimentary tools to do magnificent things at times. And like I can respect the Occupy Wall Street movements and movements like that. But when you're talking about all over the world, how much time and how many things are going on, you need to tap into an entirely different force within yourself to be able to rectify certain situations. And so that's why I believe all this is coming about, because it challenges us to look in a different area, possibly inside, to find the potential that's necessary to metamorphosize the reality in the short time span that we've been given now to accomplish that.
Sevan, we're just about out of time, but there's another way to say that. It's that old adage about think outside the box. You know, we all pretty much think the same thing.
Right.
You mix it up, it comes out a little different, but they're pretty much the same thoughts. But the true definition of thinking outside of the box is thinking thoughts you didn't think you could think. That's when reality hits, and that's when things begin to change. Now, that said, do you have a website we can find you at and also purchase the book?
For sure. You can actually find me at www.astroquest.com, and you can also find our information archives at www.resistance2010.com. The book's actually available there for free. We're actually working on a new book, which is called Secret Energy. And so that's where you can find us at. And I encourage everyone to think outside of the matrix, which is the cube, or as they call it, incubation, and get ready to metamorphosize into what's here and available for us now. So thank you so much for also having me on, Michael. It's been a pleasure. Very brief but smooth conversation.
My absolute pleasure. Great, and take care.
You too.